The ambient noise of Rosewood Bistro created a comfortable blanket of sound, clinking glasses, muted conversations, the occasional burst of laughter from the bar area. Daniel sat at his usual corner table, the one with a clear view of the entrance, waiting for his business partner to arrive. They were supposed to finalize the Henderson contract tonight, though Trevor was running characteristically late. His phone vibrated against the white tablecloth. "Late at work, love you." Daniel smiled reflexively at his wife's message. Rebecca had been pulling long hours at the design firm lately, working on that museum renovation project she was so passionate about. He typed back a quick heart emoji, then set the phone face down and returned his attention to the leather folder containing contract details. That's when he heard the laugh. It wasn't just any laugh, it was her laugh. The one she saved for moments of genuine delight, the sound that had first captivated him 7 years ago at a mutual friend's wedding. His head lifted instinctively, eyes scanning the dimly lit restaurant interior. And there she was. Rebecca sat 2 tables away, partially obscured by an ornamental fig tree, but unmistakably present. She wore the emerald dress he'd bought her for their anniversary, the one she'd claimed made her feel beautiful. Her hair cascaded over one shoulder in those loose waves he loved to run his fingers through. But she wasn't alone. The man across from her was younger than Daniel, maybe late 20s, with the kind of careless confidence that came from never having been truly tested by life. He leaned forward, saying something that made Rebecca throw her head back in delight, her hand reaching across the table to touch his. Daniel's heart performed a strange, stuttering rhythm. There had to be an explanation. A client, perhaps? But the museum project was institutional, hardly the kind of work that required intimate dinners at expensive restaurants. He watched as the man's fingers intertwined with hers. The gesture was casual, familiar, not the tentative touch of new acquaintances. Rebecca's thumb traced small circles on his wrist, the same absent-minded gesture of affection she'd always done with Daniel during their early dating days. The waiter approached their table with 2 glasses of red wine. Chateauneuf du Pape, if Daniel's eyes weren't deceiving him. Rebecca's favorite. The same wine they'd shared on their wedding night. Daniel's phone buzzed again. Trevor, apologizing profusely for a last-minute emergency with his daughter. Could they reschedule? No problem. Family comes first, Daniel typed mechanically, his eyes never leaving his wife's table. He should leave. He should storm over there and demand answers. He should feel rage, betrayal, the hot burn of humiliation. Instead, he felt cold, a spreading numbness that started in his chest and radiated outward until even his fingertips felt frozen. The man said something else and Rebecca leaned in conspiratorially, her eyes sparkling in the candlelight. Then it happened. The kiss. It wasn't hurried or stolen. There was no guilty glance around the restaurant first, no hesitation. The man cupped her face with both hands, and Rebecca melted into him with the kind of practiced ease that spoke of repetition, of familiarity, of a routine long established. Daniel's water glass trembled in his grip. The kiss lasted 7 seconds. Daniel counted each one, his mind clinically cataloging details while his heart performed its own slow-motion demolition. When they finally separated, Rebecca's lipstick remained perfect. She'd tilted her head at precisely the right angle, a technique born of practice. How long had this been happening? Daniel's mind raced backward through recent months, re-examining memories with this new, terrible lens. The late nights at the office had started around March, shortly after the museum project began. For months of lies, delivered with the same loving smile she'd given him that morning over coffee. He remembered their conversation from just last week. They'd been lying in bed, her head on his chest, talking about their future. She'd suggested trying for a baby next year, once her big project wrapped up. "I want to give our children the best version of myself," she'd said, kissing his collarbone. "The version that's accomplished something meaningful." The memory curdled in his stomach. Across the restaurant, Rebecca and her companion were sharing a dessert now, tiramisu, something she always claimed was too heavy for her taste when Daniel suggested it. She fed the man a spoonful, laughing when he caught her wrist and kissed her palm. Daniel's waiter approached, asking if he was ready to order. Just the check for the water, please, he managed, his voice surprisingly steady. Something came up. As he waited for the bill, his phone buzzed twice more. Rebecca, building her alibi in real time. Wilson keeps changing his mind about the East Wing. Going to be here another hour at least. Don't wait up. I'll grab something from the vending machine. The audacity of it, texting him lies while sitting 50 feet away, weaving a fictional narrative of dedication and sacrifice. Did she feel any guilt at all? Or had the deception become so routine that it required no more thought than breathing? Daniel paid cash, leaving a generous tip for the waiter who'd done nothing wrong. He stood carefully, keeping the fig tree between himself and Rebecca's table. From this angle, he could see the man's hand resting possessively on her thigh under the table. That's when the full weight of betrayal hit him, not the affair itself, but the elaborate architecture of lies required to sustain it. Every "I love you" over the past 4 months had been contaminated. Every intimate moment they'd shared had been preceded or followed by her time with someone else. He thought of their anniversary dinner 2 months ago, how radiant she'd looked, how he'd felt like the luckiest man alive. Had she been with him that same week? That same day? Daniel walked toward the exit, his footsteps silent on the plush carpet. As he passed near their table, hidden by other diners and decorative screens, he heard her voice clearly. I should probably head out soon. He'll start worrying if I'm too late. 5 more minutes, the man replied. I hate sharing you with him. I know, baby. But we have to be careful. Just a little while longer, and then. Daniel didn't wait to hear the rest. He pushed through the restaurant doors into the cool October evening, the city lights blurring in his peripheral vision. His car sat in the parking garage 3 blocks away. The walk felt both endless and instantaneous, his body moving on autopilot while his mind struggled to process the magnitude of what he'd witnessed. The house greeted Daniel with its usual warmth, soft lighting from the timers Rebecca had programmed, the faint scent of the vanilla candles she loved, their wedding photo smiling from the mantel. Everything looked exactly as it had that morning, yet the entire space felt alien now, like a movie set designed to represent a happiness that had never truly existed. He stood in the foyer for several minutes, keys still in hand, listening to the silence. The antique clock in the living room ticked steadily, marking seconds that felt simultaneously too fast and agonizingly slow. His phone buzzed. Wilson finally approved the design. Heading home now. Want me to pick up anything? Daniel stared at the message, at the casual domesticity of it. She was maintaining the performance even now, probably already in her car, probably already having said goodbye to her lover with promises of tomorrow or next week or whenever they'd carved out their next stolen moment. He didn't respond. Instead, he climbed the stairs to their bedroom, to what he'd believed was their bedroom, and pulled the suitcase from the closet. The large one they'd taken to Greece for their 5th anniversary, when they'd promised each other they'd never take their love for granted. Packing required no thought. Clothes, toiletries, the watch his father had given him, the laptop with his work files. He moved through the room methodically, extracting his life from their shared space piece by piece. Each item felt both essential and meaningless. What did any of it matter now? In the bathroom, he found her birth control pills in the medicine cabinet. The prescription was current, the package showing she'd been taking them consistently. So much for trying for a baby next year. Had that been a lie too, or just another layer of deception to maintain the illusion? His reflection caught his eye in the mirror, a man who looked exactly like he had that morning, yet somehow fundamentally different. He'd walked into that restaurant as a husband in a happy marriage. He was leaving this house as something else entirely. Downstairs, he paused at his desk in the study. The goodbye note needed to be perfect, not because he wanted to hurt her, but because he wanted her to understand the full weight of what she'd destroyed. He pulled out a sheet of their monogram stationery, the expensive kind Rebecca had ordered for thank you notes they'd never gotten around to writing. His pen hovered over the paper for several heartbeats. Finally, he wrote 3 sentences. I saw you at Rosewood tonight. The kiss looked practiced. I'm staying with my brother, the same 3 words from Tuesday apply. He set the note on the kitchen counter, weighted down by her favorite coffee mug, the one that said "World's Best Wife," that he'd given her last Christmas as a joke. The irony wasn't lost on him. Tuesday. 3 days ago. They'd been arguing about something trivial, whether to replace the living room couch, and in a moment of frustration, he'd said, "Sometimes I wonder if we even know each other anymore." Those words felt prophetic now. Daniel took one last look around the house. The home they'd bought together, painted together, filled with furniture chosen during long Saturday afternoons at vintage shops. 7 years of shared life, and he was walking away with a single suitcase and the knowledge that none of it had been real. Not lately, anyway. His phone buzzed again, 10 minutes away. "I'm exhausted. Can't wait to curl up with you." The casual cruelty of it, the ease with which she could transition from one man to another, from lies to more lies, felt like a physical blow. Daniel sat in his brother's spare bedroom, the suitcase still unpacked on the floor, staring at his phone as it erupted with increasingly frantic messages. "Where are you?" "Daniel, this isn't funny. I found your note. We need to talk. Please. I can explain. It's not what you think. Call me. Please." The desperation in her texts would have moved him yesterday. Now they felt like white noise, the thrashing of someone caught in a web of their own making. His brother, Nathan, had asked no questions when Daniel showed up at 11 p.m. with a suitcase and a 1,000-yard stare. He'd simply made up the guest room, poured 2 fingers of whiskey into a tumbler, and said, "I'm here when you're ready." Daniel wasn't ready. Might never be ready. His phone rang, Rebecca calling for the 8th time. He let it go to voicemail, then listened to her message. "Daniel, please. I know what you saw looks bad, but there's context. His name is Garrett. He was helping me with something. A surprise for you. I know how this sounds, but you have to believe me. We've been together 7 years. Doesn't that count for something? Don't throw away everything we built over a misunderstanding. Come home. Please come home so we can talk like adults." A surprise. The lie was almost insulting in its laziness. Nathan appeared in the doorway with a fresh beer. "She's called me 4 times too. Wants me to convince you to call her back." He sat on the edge of the bed. "You don't have to talk about it. But if you want to." Daniel found his voice. "I watched her kiss another man tonight. At Rosewood. While she was texting me that she was working late." The words came out flat, factual, as if he were describing someone else's tragedy. Nathan's jaw tightened. "Jesus, Dan." The kiss wasn't new. It was comfortable. Familiar. Like they'd done it 100 times before. Daniel took a long pull from the beer. "Everything was a lie, Nate. The late nights, the stress about work, the talk about starting a family. All of it was cover for he couldn't finish the sentence." More texts arrived. "I know you're upset, but leaving without talking is childish. You're being dramatic. Nothing happened that would end our marriage. Fine. Don't respond. But you'll feel stupid when you learn the truth." The gaslighting was almost impressive. She'd gone from desperate apologies to accusatory deflection in less than an hour. "What do you need?" Nathan asked. "A good divorce attorney. Already texted mine. He'll call tomorrow." Nathan paused. "For what it's worth, I never liked how she talked about your job. Like you weren't ambitious enough for her." Daniel looked up sharply. "She said that. At Mom's birthday last year. You were in the kitchen. She told Aunt Carol that you were comfortable with mediocrity, and she was tired of being the only one with dreams." Nathan shrugged. "I figured it was just wine talking. Now it made sense. Rebecca hadn't just cheated, she'd been contemptuous of him, of their life together. The affair wasn't a mistake, it was an escape from a marriage she'd apparently outgrown." His phone buzzed with a new message, this time from an unknown number. "This is Garrett. Rebecca is beside herself. Whatever you think happened, you're wrong. She loves you. Don't destroy your marriage over jealousy and insecurity." Daniel read it twice, then showed Nathan. "The ball's on this guy," Nathan muttered. But something clicked in Daniel's mind. Garrett didn't sound defensive or apologetic. He sounded proprietary, protective, like a man defending what was his. "How long?" Daniel typed back. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Then, "That's between you and your wife." "How long?" A longer pause. Then, since April. But she was going to tell you. She just needed time. 5 months. Nearly half a year of deception, of shared intimacy split between two men, of Rebecca coming home to Daniel's bed after being in Garrett's. 3 weeks later, Daniel sat across from Rebecca in the conference room of Morrison and Associates, their lawyers flanking them like seconds in a duel. She'd lost weight, dark circles shadowing her eyes, her usual polish replaced with something raw and desperate. "We don't have to do this," she said quietly, ignoring her attorney's warning glance. "We could try counseling. Work through it." Daniel studied her face, the face he'd woken up next to for 7 years, the face he'd thought he'd grow old watching. She looked like a stranger now. "Did you love him?" he asked. Rebecca flinched. "Daniel, it's a simple question." She looked down at her hands. "I don't know. Maybe." It felt like possibility. Like who I could be instead of who I am. "And who are you?" "Someone who made a terrible mistake." Her eyes met his, pleading. "I never meant to hurt you." "But you did. For 5 months. Every I love you, every dinner, every time he stopped himself. You chose to hurt me every single day." I was confused. Scared. The affair it was like an escape from real life. From responsibilities and mortgages and routine. "It wasn't about you. It was entirely about me," Daniel said softly. "About the life you decided wasn't enough. The marriage you found too ordinary. The husband you were embarrassed to admit you'd settled for." Rebecca's lawyer cleared his throat. "Perhaps we should focus on the asset division." "I talked to Nathan," Daniel continued, ignoring the interruption. "About your conversation at Mom's birthday. About mediocrity and dreams." Color drained from Rebecca's face. "I was drunk. I didn't mean." "You meant it. Maybe not consciously, but you meant it. And that's fine. People grow apart. But you should have had the courage to leave instead of." He gestured vaguely. "Instead of this. So that's it? 7 years, and you won't even fight for us." Daniel felt the ghost of old affection, the muscle memory of loving her. But love required trust, and trust, once shattered, couldn't be reconstructed from the same pieces. "I did fight," he said. "Every day I worked to build a life with you. Every compromise, every sacrifice. I fought by showing up, by being faithful, by meaning my vows. You're the one who stopped fighting. You just forgot to tell me the war was over." The lawyers negotiated for 2 more hours. Rebecca would keep the house. Daniel didn't want it anyway, didn't want to live in a space haunted by false happiness. They'd split savings, retirement accounts, the detritus of their shared life reduced to spreadsheets and signatures. As they stood to leave, Rebecca caught his arm. "Daniel, please, just tell me, did you ever really love me?" He looked at her for a long moment, at the woman he'd promised forever to, the woman who'd promised the same and meant it even less. "I loved who I thought you were," he said finally. "The version that existed before I saw who you actually are. That woman was worth everything. But she was never real, was she?" He walked out into the autumn afternoon, the papers signed, the marriage officially dissolving in 60 days. His phone was blessedly silent. Rebecca had finally stopped calling, stopped texting, stopped trying to rewrite history into something more palatable. Nathan was waiting in the parking lot, leaning against his truck. "How'd it go?" "It's done." "You okay?" Daniel considered the question. He wasn't okay, wouldn't be for a long time. But he was free. Free from the lies, the gaslighting, the slow poison of loving someone who'd already left. "I will be," he said. They drove in comfortable silence, leaving the law office and its ghosts behind. Daniel's phone buzzed one last time, a message from Rebecca. "I'm sorry. For everything. I hope someday you can forgive me." He read it, then deleted it without responding. Some wounds didn't need closure, didn't need resolution. Some endings were better left silent. The restaurant, the kiss, the practiced intimacy, all of it belonged to a different life now. Daniel had walked away from that scene the same way he'd walked out of that house, quietly, deliberately, carrying only what was truly his. And in the silence he'd chosen, in the cold precision of his departure, he'd said everything that needed saying. Some goodbyes didn't require words. They just required the courage to leave.